Here's 6 months and 20 some odd days I had to figure out, so I walked out and fixed this like this. So I said, so whatever season of life, whatever cycle, whatever you're going through, this does not have to define who you are. This is just going to be a chapter in your life. I said, 10 years down the road, it's going to be a chapter in your life. 20 years down the road, it's going to be a footnote in a chapter somewhere. I said, when you walk out of that gate, you leave this behind you and you carry on forward. So,
They need to hear that.
yeah, we don't know either, man.
Yeah. I don't know where they're at. I don't know where about it. My wife's at the state teams. I know where she's at.
Oh gosh, she okay? The cold. That's one of the things. So we had all the sickness at our house last week.
Did you?
Caroline was sick, and so I stayed home with her Monday and Tuesday. And then I was still coughing and sniffling when I went to work on Wednesday, and then Joe Aaron was feeling bad by the end of the week. And it was just that time of year where you get all 3 seasons in one day.
Everybody I know was getting sick last week.
All right, I guess we won't give it just a minute.
Let's do it.
When does he go back? You know what month he has, the next month he has?
I know. Well, if I catch him today, I'll ask.
'Cause I thought he had 2 months.
Yeah, exactly. Morning, Gary.
Good morning. All 2 of you.
Right. When you register for your Sicily Island thing, is that first of the year?
First of the year.
I might want to do it with you this year.
I'll put you in. Yeah. I'll get in touch with you.
Y'all got a club down in Sicily Island?
It's a wildlife management area. And they got turkeys. Well, they did. I don't know. They're overrun with coyotes right now. But
You camp out the night before usually, don't you?
sometimes, yeah.
I can shoot some coyotes.
Yeah. It's not a far drive down there, really.
Drive it all the time. Like Friday night we had a game that Verity, we had to go,
Oh, yeah.
Delta Charter?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, it's not that bad. So you went past it. Yeah.
Been going to Baton Rouge on a monthly basis since I was 16, 17 when my parents moved down there. And then my grandparents lived in Fidelia my entire
Oh,
childhood.
God.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Real familiar.
You're steep.
Yeah, yeah. It's so funny. Have you ever been there?
Oh, yeah.
To Sis Allen Hills? It's called something else now. It's called something else now. They changed the name. They changed the name. Some guy's name. Sonny Gilbert Wildlife Management Area. That's what it is. Well, you go in there and you're driving. It's flat delta, and all of a sudden you turn into this thing and you just go up.
If you look from the highway,
You can see it.
way off by the, I mean, it's right on the river. I mean, where the hills are.
Yep.
The Bath and Washita.
Mhm.
Here. But you can, if you look over there, it's way back there, but you can see, like, what?
Yeah. Once you go south of Gilbert.
Between Gilbert and Sicily Island.
Yeah. Once you go past Gilbert, Wisner. Once you go past Wisner, you can look off there and you can see it. But the first time I went, especially if you go down Highway, I guess it's 4, and you turn in that way, you go up, and then it's all these. It's really interesting topography. You would like it.
There's a couple of places like that around.
It's like going to North Arkansas. Mm-hmm. It's like going to North Arkansas.
The way you describe it is like the hills of Mississippi, on the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, was it the National Wildlife Refuge just south of Natchez? I think it's something Catherine.
Mm-hmm.
But those hills along the river, I mean, it's 200 feet hills.
Oh yeah.
Up and down.
Yeah.
And they're steep.
And then Tunica area, and then there's one other place in
No,
Louisiana.
north of Tunica is where I'm talking about, but Tunica's the same way.
Yeah, there's a spot in Tunica that's on the Louisiana side too, that's like that. It's like there's no other topography in the state outside of like these 3 areas that look like this.
We used to Erica grew up doing Tunica Hills or whatever.
Yeah.
There's waterfalls all in there.
Yeah,
And I don't remember if that's on Louisiana or Mississippi.
you can hike back to them.
But we do that all the time. We take the kids.
There's some waterfalls down there at Sissy Island. I mean, you know, they're about as tall as this roof ceiling right here. But it's kind of cool.
I think that'd be fun.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
All right, so do we just go ahead and crank up?
Let's do it.
Blake was telling me, like, his expectations for today are, like, really high.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Well, he should. You know, I was stretching when they were coming in, and he wasn't aware that this class was going to involve stretching. That's how deep we're getting into it. Good morning, guys. Good morning, guys that are out there. I apologize for the wait there. We were, you know, wintertime is setting in, and folks are just trickling in a little more slowly. So we were trying to wait and get our crowd numbers up a little bit. But we'll see where it ends up as we continue this lesson series on kingdom living.
That's right. We talked about kingdom men, and then you and Mindy talked about kingdom family, and Lindy and I talked about kingdom marriage. And so we're just kind of going through some characters.
And then Lindy and Mindy came in
that's
and
right.
talked about kingdom women.
That's right. And so today we've got some characters we'd like to talk about who displayed some of our kingdom characteristics, and you know, we just kind of like to hit a lot of them, and then next week we're going to kind of talk about kingdom, spreading the kingdom, maybe.
Yeah.
You know,
We'll talk about
you know.
pushing it out, taking it outside of these walls,
Yeah.
pushing it not only into our communities, but into the subsequent generations that come. That'll be one of the big things. So a lot of people that we're going to talk about today, this is going to be a repeat. We've talked about some of these people already. Anytime we're talking about people in the Bible, I always kind of, I feel like I'm on shaky ground when I call them characters, like they're in a
They were
movie
characters.
or a play. They
Yeah.
were characters, but we are talking about these figures that we look at in the Bible and how they displayed some of these kingdom traits that we've been talking about over the last several years. You see, the thing about kingdom life is lifelong.
Right.
Right. We don't look at somebody when we consider, hey, that's a good man of God, or that's a good woman of God, or
But we do.
a good warrior for the kingdom.
Yeah.
And that is based on our knowledge of them throughout a long portion, if not all, of their lives.
Right.
Right. We don't put this designation on somebody simply because of one thing that they did or did not do.
And we kind of put them up on a pedestal.
And we have
Yeah.
to watch that.
And honestly, I have a little bit of a pet peeve. Can I share my pet
Please,
peeve?
peeve away.
You know, sometimes, and I've heard this, it's like, I want to do great things for the Lord. I want to live for the kingdom. But I got to get my life together first. And so we spend our whole time worrying about, we got to be perfect. None of these guys we're talking about today were perfect, by any means.
None of these guys that we're going to talk to for the rest of the day
That's right.
are perfect.
So we got to remember, we got to meet God where we are right now. I mean, you know, whatever you've got, He can get through that.
That's right.
He can use you.
One of the things that we push here at Whites Ferry Road especially, it's one of the great things that I love about this church is that gospel message. And the center of that gospel message is Jesus Christ is ready to meet you where you are, not the other way around. There's nothing that you have to do to
exactly
yourself in order to prepare yourself to meet Jesus. All you have to do is open your mind and heart and realize that He's standing right there. Whatever mud, whatever muck, whatever life situation you've got going on, He's ready to meet you there.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I agree with that pet peeve a lot. So when we look at these, and so we're going to need some audience participation right now. So
Okay.
if I said, hey, look out, and this could be through your life as a whole, it could be through your time here at Whites Ferry Road, it could be somewhere on your way to church here. We're probably going to have to take numbers to go in order so that we can try to get as many questions answered as we can from our
large
illustrious crowd here. All right, but who is somebody you consider a kingdom man or woman, and what attributes make them such? Like here, I'll go first. I consider Billy Loveland a man of the kingdom, and that goes not only from the relationship that Billy and I have, but I know the service and the years that he has put in children's ministry. in helping Lindy with their ministry and the lives that they have lived and the adoption of their children and their service to their community and to their church and to the Watchdog Christian family and all of this. And that's always been something that's never been touted as, hey, look at me. It's always, that's an observation coming from the outside. And so I would consider Billy a person of kingdom living stature.
Wow, thanks, man.
Hey. All right. So, how about you, the Peanut Gallery?
Chad Johnson.
Oh,
Johnson.
gosh, Chad Johnson. Yeah.
Servant pours himself out for the king.
Constantly, 100%. For those of you guys online, if you couldn't hear Gary said Chad Johnson is in just his servant heart and his servant life is a key.
I've seen him from way back to where he is now. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
How about Bromley?
Bromley, I would say Bromley.
He came up in a really tough situation, man. Mm-hmm. You know, single mom. You know, she was blind.
Right.
You know, it was pretty rough for him to come to where he was to where he is now.
Yeah. And I love, one of the things I love about David Bromley is his willingness to share his whole story. Mm-hmm. You know, struggles and all. I mean, you would look at him now, it's like, well, he's an elder of the church. You know, he's a paid staff member. Of course, he's supposed to be. But no, that's that pedestaling thing you were talking about a while ago. No, he is a man with an honest to goodness story that he loves to share, and he loves to see the growth in others through the pain and troubles and suffering that he went through. Paul Stevens, yeah.
Paul Stevens,
certainly.
absolutely.
You
talk about another rough.
Another rough coming up. All right, that's exactly right. So we talk about these kingdom traits and everything like that, and so that in your life you may display many of these. There may be some that you're working on. There may be some that you're very good at. Somebody on the outside is looking at your life going, hey, Billy Loveland, hey, Tommy Perkins, those are good people of the kingdom because I see these traits in them, right? But those people also have to know that there are serious flaws within myself, my character, my life, as well as our ability, as well as there are in your life.
Right. But
that doesn't exclude you from your kingdom life. Remember at the very beginning we said kingdom life is lifelong, right? So it's that big to encompass those ups and those downs, those successes and those failures, so that people look back and go, oh, well, sometimes a lot of people can learn. You can learn best. I mean, we say we learn best from our mistakes, right? Mm-hmm. Or at least I do. But it's also great that we're in a position that other people can learn from our mistakes.
That's exactly right.
And so a lot of these figures that we look at in the Bible really fall into that category. They fall into, hey, these are people we consider kingdom people because of what they were able to do over the course of a lifetime, despite sometimes glaring character flaws.
Absolutely. And you know, part of that thing I was talking about, my pet peeve, maybe it's that we haven't accepted grace, you know?
Oh, wow. That's a really good point.
That we got to remember, God can overcome all the stuff we've done.
Right.
So, yeah. So who we got first there?
Well, we actually have a repeat. You know, when Billy and I talked about kingdom men, we kind of fashioned that kingdom men, kingdom traits after the great King David himself. And that's actually who we're going to start with today. So David, of course, was the man after God's own heart. I mean, there can't be a more kingdom-driven life than that right there when somebody's saying King David. And so he's widely known for his bravery. He is widely known for his leadership. For his military prowess, as well as the intelligence in which he ran the nation of Islam. Oh my gosh.
Israel?
Nobody's going to say anything about that? As he ran the nation of Israel. There you go. I like it. So,
but you know what? The thing is, with his, you know, he was a man after God's own heart. We know that more for the failings he had.
Right.
And his repentance from those things.
Yeah, and that repentance is probably what I would list as David's best kingdom trait.
Right.
You know, we talk about those traits that kingdom people have, and I would say that it's David and his repentant heart.
Right.
I like the fact that we know so much about David's life, probably more than any other figure in the entire Bible, because we don't get David in a one-off story. We get to see him rise and fall multiple times.
Yep.
So when we talk about that repentant heart that David had, we saw it get used many times, right? We saw David again and again fail and have to come back and repent and prostrate himself before God. And so that speaks to me closer than anything else, because, many, many times I have had to come back with that repentant heart. I'm fairly certain that I'm not through doing that yet, that there may be something down the road that I'm still going to need to come back and repent for. And so that's why we place that kingdom trait of repentance on David.
What about Solomon? The wisest king.
He's a bright guy.
Yeah.
He really is a bright guy. Historically, secular history as well as biblical history, still Solomon is a great figure, considered to be basically the pinnacle of wisdom and even
riches.
Wealth.
Wealth.
I think this one right here that we had looked at put his graduated worth, like if we switched what it was said that Solomon possessed into today's numbers, then his wealth would exceed $3 trillion.
Wow.
Which is basically like the GDP of a nation like India or Germany. I mean, that's more money than is even fathomable by my little brain. And so the kingdom trait that we have attributed to Solomon, which we need, or I need to work on more greatly in my own life, is management. Solomon was a good manager. He was given much, and he did very well with it. It was when the times in his life when he was not using good management of his resources and things, is when he got in trouble. It is when not only he, but his kingdom also declined.
He let his wives and concubines manage him.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, of course, we're talking 700 wives and 300 concubines.
Yeah.
That's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so his priorities in the managing of the things that God gave him had kind of gotten out of whack.
That's exactly right.
And so when he returned to God and he returned to using the wisdom that God had granted him, then yes, he was lifted up in wisdom and riches and leadership ability.
And his writings are amazing too.
Right, yeah, that's exactly right. All right, go ahead and hit us with this next guy.
Next one, Samson, the strongest man. What do we have for him for our kingdom trait?
So
he was unusual character.
He was definitely an unusual character.
Yeah.
Of course, we all know the stories of Samson, and he was renowned for his physical strength and his prowess as a warrior. And like so many of us, part of his derailment in his walk, in his kingdom walk, was driven by lust. Right? He was derailed by the fairer sex.
All three of the ones we've talked about so far.
Right. Seems to be a pattern.
Yeah, watch out, guys. Come on.
Now, I want to tell you, that is absolutely 100% not a shot at the ladies. All right, ladies just being ladies. Man brain just works. It works a little bit different. But the kingdom trait that we've assigned to Samson in this case is Samson was willing to sacrifice.
That's right.
Especially there into the end of his life, that in order to set things right, he knew that it would cost him his life to do it.
Yeah, and he probably had some time to sit there and think about that.
I would really definitely think he would, and yet he chose to go ahead and do it. He said, I'm going to put out the sacrifice. And in our kingdom walk, sometimes that costs us things. I know, Billy, you've heard me say this before, because you and I have spoken together many times, especially in my recovery walk. There are things that had to be sacrificed.
Friends?
Yes, there were relationships that had to be put aside that were tough. I mean, some of these relationships were very long-running relationships. Some of these were very deep. But there were things that had to be set aside. There were things that had to be sacrificed on on my road to recovery. And Samson's life attributes this very well.
Right.
That he had his ups, he had his wonderful victories, and he had losses, but he was willing to to put away that needed to be put away in order
Right.
for God's purpose or God's kingdom to go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk about the big guy. This guy is mentioned quite a lot in the Bible, and that's Moses.
Yeah.
Right, the giver of the law, the greatest of the prophets. The guy who wrote 5 books of the Bible.
The Prince of Egypt.
The Prince of Egypt. That's exactly right. And the kingdom, I just went completely blank. The kingdom trait that we've attributed to Moses
Leadership?
is leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm talking true, honest, and good leadership, because Moses not only had to take responsibility for the things that he did, Moses, in the fashion of a true and good leader, took responsibility for what his nation did. Mm-hmm. Right? It's like, all right, so these people are acting a fool, but I'm their leader. Therefore, that responsibility falls on me. I'm sure Mr. Otis has at some point in his life. I know Gary has. I know Blake has. I know Josh has been a coach. Right. At some point, you've coached. I mean, whether it's Little League all the way up to where you're going. I know, like Josh, you were a professional athlete there for a long time, and so how much responsibility falls on a coach when a team does not perform or should? Right. And so, at that point, you got to say, hey, yeah, of course, these people didn't execute correctly on the field or on the court or something like that. But, you liked, or at least I like to see when a coach stands up in a press conference and goes, you know what, that's on me, right?
Yeah, that's what Moses would have been doing at the press conference. Yeah, that was
He-
on me.
He approached God and he's like,
Yeah.
all right, the calves and the cows and the gold and the naked dancing. And I'm sorry, man, that's on me. Apparently, I haven't done a good enough job leading these people that didn't happen. And so Moses, he used that responsibility of leadership within his own life and within the life that he taught, not to mention what he passed on to Aaron and what he passed on to Joshua and what he passed on to the people that would become the leaders of Israel later.
Yeah, and I think some of it is he had to overcome his, I don't know, maybe anger or just doing things on the spur of the moment, killing the Egyptian slave master,
Right.
Striking the rock, instead of speaking to it, throwing down the tablets, he comes down, I don't know. Who knows?
You saying he was hot-headed?
Maybe.
I've never known a hot-headed leader or coach before.
Nah, there's none of those.
I guess I can say I've never been a hot-headed leader or coach. Oh, wait, that's not right.
What?
So Noah was a guy that led his life by faith. Noah, in my mind, was probably given one of the most improbable tasks you could ever ask anybody to do.
Oh, yeah.
And with zero explanation, at least we know from our side of the story, he carried on with it. He just, the Bible describes Noah as a man who was close to God, a man who was a friend to God. He was a man that walked with God and his family. And so when God had a request of Noah that, had to seem like it came screaming in out of left field, Noah took it in stride.
You got to think he had a lot of people making fun of him.
Lots.
You'd have to think that.
And you got to figure
Yeah.
that it took 110 years?
It was a long time. Yeah.
It takes 100 years to build an ark. So people are going to talk, right?
Yeah.
An entire another generation of people can come along to make fun of you that weren't even alive
Right.
when you started this process.
Right.
Right? Governments change, leaderships change, seasons change. Things come up, but there's Noah just still here, working away at this boat. Just an amazing show of faith.
Absolutely.
Faith and belief.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, God, look, I'm sticking with it despite what what all else is going on around here. That I'll go with this, and that's faith is a tough one for us today, right? It's one of the biggest. It's what all of our relationship with God hinges on.
Mm-hmm.
That simple definition of faith is belief in something that I cannot see, that has no physicality for me. And then to walk by that and to say, yes, I'm going to adopt these kingdom traits. Yes, I'm going to put them into practice. Yes, I'm going to outwardly say to the world that I'm going to live by this code that Jesus Christ has set out for me on the faith.
And we only see a small part of the whole plan.
Right.
That's part of the problem. We see just a small part. God sees the whole thing. And we just have to accept that he knows what's best for us and have faith in what his plan for us is.
That's
So
right. I like it. One of my favorite folks in the Bible, the disciple Peter.
okay.
Now, and I have something as I was going through, looking at these figures and trying to decide which of these kingdom traits I wanted to assign to them. I get to Peter, and so I assigned the kingdom trait of confidence to Peter. Now, I understand that a lot of Peter's issues and problems were because he was overconfident.
Yeah.
Right. That was part of the thing that got him in trouble was his overconfidence in his size, in his strength, in his station that he had as being one of the inner circles with Jesus. Like, he was a top dog. I mean, if Jesus at any point in history had a number 2, then Peter would have been that person. Right. He was just right there, raring to go. A little bit hot-headed himself.
I was going to say, he kind of was like Moses in that, what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Jump out the boat. Yeah, let me jump out of the boat with you.
I'll jump out of the boat with you.
Yeah.
Soldiers coming for you. They're going to have to go through me first.
Got the sword. That's right.
We'll get there.
Let's cut their ears off.
But the trait of confidence that I was really leaning towards in our kingdom traits ideal of this is the confidence that came to Peter after Christ had left. And that's kind of when he took the realization of who the Messiah was, and one of the last things that Christ said to Peter about, you are Petra, you are going to be the rock on which we're going to build this whole thing. And the day at Pentecost from the beginning of the book of Acts and things like that he knew what he was going to have to do next was going to take a intelligent and confident leader, and ultimately was going to cost him his life.
Yeah.
Yet he took up that mantle, and he went right through into creating the new church.
Well, and you think about his transformation from a fisherman, which I'm thinking back in those days was probably a pretty low-level career. Not a lot of real bright guys out there fishing. I mean, they probably knew what they're doing, and then he's writing books and he's preaching the first gospel message. I mean, just goes to show you what God can do with anybody.
Right. Especially with a fisherman.
Yeah. Speaking of fish.
Who we got?
Jonah.
All right.
Jonah.
So Jonah has a really unique story. It's actually probably one of the ones that I would imagine that everyone in this room, certainly, and probably everyone in the sound of my voice is probably familiar with the story of Jonah.
Sure.
It's one of the things that even if you did not grow up in church, you have encountered this story at some point. This story transcends just Sunday school, lessons and Bible stories. Like it's out there in popular culture. It's remade and retold and in various things. The story of Jonah is certainly a one that is known, and Jonah was running, and that was it. We've all been at a point where we've run from something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and some of it may be a point where you were running from God. I know there was a good bit of my life and time where I spent, and I wasn't necessarily running from God, but I was certainly running from the responsibilities that God was trying to place in my life.
Yeah.
And so we've all run from something. And so I think the kingdom trait, when we look back and we look at Jonah's life as a whole, because Jonah, he got it together.
Yeah.
He went and did what he was told. I mean, if a fish burps you up on the beach,
Yeah,
that can change your mindset and how you look at things.
He probably hit rock bottom or, somewhere down there,
Even got
You get in a fish, you got some time to think things out. And
That's right.
Get it together.
That's right. Yeah. Get in a fish and think about it.
Yeah. With all that,
So the kingdom trait that we have placed with Jonah is that of acceptance. Right? Jonah was asked directly by God to do something. He said, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to run away the other way. And his hand may have been forced a little bit,
Yeah.
but, at that, and Jonah goes on later in his story and he gets a little pouty again.
Oh, yeah, because he wasn't very accepting of the Ninevites.
Right. And so when it comes in the end is the fact that he opened up and he accepted that God was in charge, regardless, and that God was going to do things his way. And so when we look at our kingdom lives, we have to take that in, that there's just some things that are going to be out of my control.
That's right.
There are some things that God has. It's working in his plan. It's working in his will, regardless of my ability to understand it or not understand it.
Well, I mean, you could probably step on a few toes because there's some people in our church or in the church as a whole that said, those people can't be saved.
Oh, yeah.
They're beyond. We just can't fool with them. Mm-hmm. I don't want to go on down that rabbit hole, but you think about it.
But
that was part of his problem.
That's
Ninevites, really? No. We can't deal with them.
Those people.
Those people. Well, there you go.
Don't
those
come-
people.
don't
That's
come
the
to this church. For you guys out there, if you want to come and visit, we are certainly not a those people church.
No, absolutely not.
We're actually probably the church that the other church is called the Those People Church. All right, so we get to Father Abraham.
The friend of God.
You know what? I'm really happy that I think we're probably going to get about halfway through our
That's what
list.
I'm thinking too. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
nice. So we get to Father Abraham. When we look back over the life of Abraham, I mean, this is one of the storied lives in all the Bible. I mean, we call him Father Abraham because, yes, he became the father
He had many
of the
sons.
Israelite nation. We're gonna get
There we
right
go.
there. Yes, he had many sons. His sons, went on to number the stars, just like it was told. And in kingdom traits and in kingdom life, we look at this life as probably steadfast. Stay the course. Lots of things did not go Abraham's way.
Right.
Lots of things did not come into Abraham's form of understanding. And this steadfastness, I mean, this could actually probably apply to most all of these figures as you look at the entirety of their life. I would imagine that this steadfastness, especially for those of you like myself who have grown up in church, probably applies greatly to my life. That yes, there were variations that weave back and forth across the line I was supposed to be following, but when you look at the life as a whole, you can say, okay, but I chose this belief and I stuck to it.
There you go.
And my understanding throughout the years and things like that changed, but I just stuck to it. And that's really the life the thing that Abraham exemplified so much in his life was that he's like, no, I'm going to follow God. I'm going to listen. I'm going to do what he says. He says, leave my home. Okay, I'm going to leave my home. He says, don't worry, you and your wife are going to have a kid. Okay,
What?
well, fine,
Yeah.
I won't worry about that. All right, great. Take that kid and take him up there and stab him. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go with it. I mean, like he walked out there a long way on that plank, but he stayed the course.
Yep.
And he kept that steadfast trait.
And he was blessed for that too. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that was pretty tough when you're finally like, okay, God, you're doing the work. I got my son. What?
Right. Yeah.
I got to kill him.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
My favorite figure in all of the Bible, outside of course, Jesus, has got to be the Apostle Paul. And I think I'd call him my favorite because I've probably spent more time studying Paul than I have any other single character, and so there's a lot of kinship that I feel with him. And Paul, I've got to tell you, is one of my favorite things about him, and this is one that we're going to have to be careful when we talk about this as a kingdom trait.
Okay.
I have it listed as tenacity, right? Paul was tenacious. He would get the job done. It did not matter the cost. And so, and the reason I look at this is because when you rewind past Paul and you get to Saul, right, who he was when he made a name for himself, that tenacity was present. Right?
Oh, yeah.
That tenacity was present in his persecution of this young and budding church. I mean, this literally was the person that all the other disciples ran from.
Oh yeah, he was a dedicated Pharisee, Israelite. I mean, he was. Man, we got to follow God's law, and these guys, who are they?
Right, they were just the latest riffraff that was coming against his church.
Right.
He had wealth, he had incredible intelligence, he had pedigree and education, and all that. And so the thing that I love about Paul, and when you make that switch over from Saul to Paul, is he did not lose that tenacity. That he went out teaching, he went out and took his apostolic message with the same tenacity and ferocity that he came against the church. Once he had seen the truth, it didn't squash the fire in
He
his
accepted
life.
the fact that he was wrong.
Yes, he did.
He's like, you know what? I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So let's turn it around and
in that fire for the protection of Judaism that had lived in his life since he was born switched over, and he probably single-handedly did more for the spread of Christianity than anyone that came before him or even after that. Mm-hmm. And so that there is a point in our kingdom traits and in our kingdom life where we can be tenacious. We can be, I don't want to say aggressive, but I want to say unyielding. Right? And so, like, if you have folks that you're speaking to, if you've got something you're going after, if you've got a goal in life, well, then you can attack that with vigor, right? Or you can put that, you can bring some of that human side of you that wants to compete or that wants to succeed or that wants to get there, and you can put that in. You can be tenacious about your spreading of the gospel. Excuse me. It's tough to share the message with people a lot of times. Randall Greer here, and I know Mr. Otis is a part of this ministry too, does a lot of speaking in prisons.
Right.
And sometimes that's a tough place to go and speak, but they'll go in and week out, and they'll just continue, and they'll bring that message. And yeah, that message has a central component, and that component will never change. And they're like, yeah, as long as this gate will slide open on Mondays, I will be here with this message. Doesn't matter who wants to come in and see it. And that's the kind of tenacity that we're talking about going out there. So let's wrap it up. Let's do one more.
One more?
Yeah.
How about Mary Magdalene?
I like Mary Magdalene. It's about time we got a woman in this.
Yeah, there we go.
And I tell you what.
What do we know about her?
Well, we know as far as female characters in the Bible goes, she probably may have been one of the most fortunate. You know, she was the first person to see the risen Savior, and she had a very special, I want to call it, relationship with Jesus. When she first met Jesus, you know, she was possessed by demons.
That's what, yeah.
And so, in this article that we used to build this list, you know, it went on talking about that a demon can't possess a godly soul, you know, or a godly heart. And so I don't know much about demons.
I don't know much about demons.
I mean, we say so and so fights their demons and all this, but they said that. But Mary Magdalene, when she met Jesus, she had demons, and he cast her out, and so she became a very close follower of Jesus, and her kingdom trait of loyalty showed through, because not only had she left her life and began to follow Jesus at that point, that she was at his feet for every teaching, for every talk, for everything. And that was not a place. Like, this Jewish women were not allowed to be, you know, you're not here for the teaching. You go over there, you know, let the men learn, and then they'll come and tell you later. But not only did she stay with him, but she stayed with him all the way to the foot of the cross. Right, she stayed literally until the moment he died. From the point where he saved her, she never left his side, and that's that kind of loyalty. You know, as I accept that Christ and I have become saved, then my loyalty right now at that point is to Jesus, right, and no other God, no other idol, no other thing. Jesus deserves my loyalty, and he deserves my loyalty all the way to the end of my walk.
And that's a very good trait there, kingdom trait. Loyalty, yeah.
Certainly,
Yeah.
certainly. Loyalty is I think taken for granted a lot in our society today. That there we see people who, and mind you, I'm not casting down on this at all, but you know, coming through my generation, fewer and fewer people retire from 35, 40 years in the same profession. Right. The generation that's coming up has a tendency to change not only jobs or positions, but sometimes entire career paths every 6 to 10 years. Right. And so, you know, my grandfather, you know, retired from 40 years at the mill, along with probably 80-90% of the people that he worked with
Right.
there, right? You know, that's, you know, you went in, you got there, or they retired from military, or they worked, you know, for, my dad worked 35 years for Entergy, you know, and stuff like that. And so I'm not saying that the generations today are not loyal, but I will say that personal loyalty and things
Right.
like that is
Right.
tough to come by and very good. So we get into routines a lot, right? You know,
Right.
we get into routines. We only want to do something a certain way. And you and I were talking before everybody
About
got
traveling?
here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Billy's not.
I'm a non-interstate driver.
He's not an interstate
I will
guy.
drive the interstate.
Yeah.
But I don't prefer the interstate. When we go on trips, my wife's like, I guess we're going to take this other road home. Yep.
We're going to take.
Because
a
you
back
see
road.
things you don't see elsewhere.
How many back road drivers do we have here? Well, my wife, imagine that. That's how we get. How many? Let's get there right now, fast as we can
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Get out of this car and get to having fun, or get to whatever.
That's
we're
kind of
doing.
the way my wife was for a long time.
For a long time.
Yeah.
You
Took
gotta
some
get
doing,
working
yeah.
out of that.
Yeah.
So for 20 years, my mother lived in East Tennessee. Well, you can do it in 8.5 hours. It was about a 9.5 hour drive, and then once the kids came along, it was probably about a 10-hour drive.
Right.
You know, and
We
so,
used to go up there.
So many times we just got to get up there, man. It's I-20 to Birmingham, hang a left. You get up there, south of Nashville, take a right. It's 3 roads. You can get there, pap, pap, pap. You know, just easy as all get out. But man, it just wears you down. And so once we had kids, we started looking for other routes. Let's get off the beaten path, and that's where Joe Aaron and I, we fell in love with the Natchez Trace Parkway. All right, so it's
That's a slow drive.
It's a road that's a national park that goes from Natchez, Mississippi to Nashville, Tennessee. Beautiful wildlife, vistas, waterfalls, parks, and things like that. And it's a great drive. And honestly, man, it didn't add much to our trip. It probably added 30 minutes, but it gave us a spot to where the kids start getting restless. I mean, if you've ever traveled with infants and toddlers, you know there's only so much they'll take. And then once that threshold is met, you know. That's it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so we would get out and we would have our picnic lunches and let the kids run around and all that kind of stuff. And we bring that up for this. We didn't have any presentation materials today, but that doesn't mean that Tommy's not going to have a map. And so here's a map of the Natchez Trace Parkway that we like to take that is listed with all the wonderful sights and adventures and waterfalls and places you can take. I highly recommend if you're heading north or northeast this traveling season that you give a look to this nice and calming, relaxing drive and everything like that. And there you got your map. I know that people would be complaining if they didn't get one. So
Well, and it's just kind of like life. It's a journey.
it's a
Enjoy
journey.
enjoy it. You know, we don't have to get from here to there.
So we've
Enjoy it.
Yeah, we've
How about
really
that?
enjoyed this journey along this Kingdom series that we're doing. We've got 2 more weeks left in it. Billy and I will be here with you next week again. We may finish some of these Kingdom traits. We are going to specifically look into how we push these Kingdom traits outside of the walls of the church, into the community, and into the subsequent generations that come behind us. They're going to need these Kingdom traits too. And how are they going to know what these Kingdom traits are, Billy?
We got to show them.
That's right. They're
Gotta
going to
live 'em.
see them. They're going to see them in us. They're going to see them in Billy and I. They're going to see them in all of you.
That's right.
That's exactly how that knowledge changes hands. And then it'll be back where it all started. I think 3 weeks from now, with Gary and Jared will be back up here to kind of put a bookend on it. And
Put a bow on it just before Christmas.
bow on it just for looking.
How about
there.
that?
Isn't it great when things just work out?
There you go.
Fantastic. Guys, thank y'all for joining us here this morning. You guys online, thank you again for joining us, for choosing to worship and study and learn and grow with us. We'd love to see you here in person sometime and be able to love on you and just share some of the wonderful blessings that
We got a live stream
continue.
event next weekend.
Are we live streaming the night in Bethlehem?
Yes, we are.
Oh, well, fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow, you won't.
Next Sunday night in Bethlehem, it's going to be in the church here. There's going to be some live animals, and it will be live streamed. So join us for that. There's going to be a walk around camera.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
fantastic.
So it
Well,
ought to be
I'm
pretty
looking
good.
forward to that.
Yeah.
It's always a fun time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Billy, would you pray us out?
Sure, absolutely.
We'll get on to church.
Dear Lord, just want to thank you for another day that you've given us to breathe and just to live and represent you out in this world. Just thank you so much for all the people this morning that were here and that are live streaming with us, and just joining us in this journey. And we just want everybody to try and adopt these kingdom traits, and we just want us to all be together in heaven one day with you. And